Do you think that the majority of Americans who worked in an office at some point in the next year or two will be back at that office?
I don't think that we're in the position to predict exactly when that's going to happen. What we're really focused on, and maybe to give some good context on what our perspective is on this, is, we rate mortgages on commercial assets. So, about 150 billion of office, which is about the second biggest commercial real estate asset class there is behind multifamily, about $2.5 trillion of value. So this is a big topic, and obviously it's front on everyone's minds working from home right now. But intuitively, you may think that office is dead, as you might have seen in a lot of headlines these days. But when you look at like the potential for more work from home, when you look at the trajectory that it was already on pre-COVID, it does seem like that you're looking at a major disruption. But when you actually dig into it and you put your C-suite hat on and imagine having to manage a distributed workforce and the costs associated with that, both direct and indirect, is that net cost superior than having a centralized office space? And we think the answer is no. But if we're wrong, we also have a really good idea of how long that's going to take and where that's going to happen.
Yeah, well, the numbers are staggering that you gave, Kevin, and I want to reiterate what you just said. You got about 550 billion of mortgage-backed securities on the commercial side or office loans that are floating around out there, and the commercial real estate market is worth about 1/8 of the entire American GDP. If those leases, which by the way are probably 5, 10, 15 years, it's not like near-term risk. If those leases aren't renewed, that's an epic hit to a massive part of the American economy.
Absolutely. But, like you said, that happens very gradually. So on average, the typical commercial or the typical office lease is about 9 years. And for ones that are larger than that, or that are likely to set the trend, the big players out there that are, taking down more than 100,000 square feet of office space, it's more than 12 years. So it is definitely a slow bleed, only from the structural perspective of leases. But then beyond that, you have to build a whole entire different infrastructure of managing a distributed workforce, which, by the way, there's decades-long history of people trying to do, and most famously IBM and Yahoo not being able to do it in the 2010s. These are fundamental issues that don't get solved magically by technology. It takes time and a lot of infrastructure investment to be able to do this.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring up Yahoo because we've kind of tried this work from home thing before. It didn't work for some companies. Now, of course, I understand technology's better, but there's soft costs as well. I would imagine it's harder for younger people to get promoted. You don't have the face time. You're not in the office. You don't get to know your management team as well. Everyone just kind of bunkered down. Everybody I talked to at the beginning was, number one, was fear. Everybody was just afraid. Now we're kind of resigned to this situation now. Everybody I know is starting to change their mind and say, you know what, I need to get back to an office at some point because I miss my coworkers and I don't feel like I'm going to be able to function at my job as well. Are you hearing the same?
Well, anecdotally, absolutely. I think we're all hearing that. But, you touched on a really good point and you brought up a really good chart. Millennials are going to be 3/4 of the workforce in just 5 years. They are the future of office. If you're looking for the future of office, it's millennials. And it's very interesting with them because they have a bit of a paradox. They're very tech savvy and ubiquitously they want flexible work arrangements. But at the same time, they don't get the exposure to senior management. They aren't afforded promotions, like you mentioned. This has been shown time and time again. So they do want the ability to come into a centralized office. And that chart that you just showed from the National Bureau of Economic Research, that potential job to be done at home, that's for triage. And triage is not the ideal situation. A triage situation it's been working great. And success in triage means a very different thing than the long-term use of centralized office space, which is a different story.